A major goal of most Hypixel Skyblock players is to increase their damage as high as they can. Players started off being able to deal thousands, then 10,000s, then millions, then billions. Some were even able to deal damage counts in the trillions using certain bugs and exploits. But the damage values reported of recent have put all of these old damage records to shame, with numbers in the quintillions, sextillions, decillions, and even higher. Even these, however, cannot reach the level of damage I figured out how to deal. Here's how I dealt the highest critical hit in Hypixel Skyblock history. Also, all of the methods used in this video have been patched, so don't expect them to work if you try them yourself. It all began in the beginning of May, when it was discovered that boomerang damage nearly doubled every time you hit a mob with it. If you went into the graveyard and hit 5 zombies with the same boomerang, you would end up getting much higher damage than what was regularly possible. This effect happened because when the admins nerfed sword swapping with bones, they accidentally made it so that the bonus of any item that increased the base weapon damage stat would get reapplied every time the same bone hit a mob. This means if you used a Crown of Greed or a Warden Helmet, the base weapon damage bonus would continuously get reapplied and your damage would be very high. If you had max speed with the Warden Helmet, you would be looking at around 1.8 times damage for every mob killed by the boomerang, or 2 times damage if you had a Black Cat pet. A 1.8 times multiplier per hit may not sound like much, but if you know anything about exponential growth, you could see how quickly your damage is going to explode into really high numbers. At this point, it was simply a matter of who could hit the most mobs with the boomerang. Some went for dungeons, floor 4, due to the high mob quantity, but I chose my private island since you could just place down a bunch of monster minions. I quickly created a 25 zombie minion setup that produced around 125 zombies. I killed them with a boomerang and already reached the duodecillions in damage. Before I continue, I would just like to add that I will be referencing a ton of large number names like duodecillion, sextillion, vigintillion, etc. So I'd recommend you check out the Wikipedia page on the names of large numbers and their values in the description if you get confused. Anyways, after the zombie hit, I realized I could also use a bunch of testing dummies since those will add hits. This was able to get me into the tradecillions. After this point, I was number 6 on the highest critical damage leaderboards. I needed a way to get more damage, so I bought a level 100 Black Cat to boost my damage multiplier from 1.8 times to 2 times. Using this, I hit the quindecillions and number 2 on the critical damage leaderboards. Since I only needed a minor boost to reach the number 1 spot, I got the 26th and 27th minion slot. I also bought an edible mace since it was also able to contribute damage. Using this, I took number 1 by a very narrow margin. I thought at this point I could be done, but then disaster strikes. 2 guys came out of nowhere and took first and second place, both of their damage values in the vigintillions, while mine was still in the sextillions. I realized my method could work no longer, so I did some investigative journalism into both of them. One of the guys didn't even own a Warden Helmet, which made no sense since it was practically essential to the glitch. They had cleared their inventories, meaning I would have to resort to high auctions. On high auctions, I saw they both purchased a Rend 5 bow and a Soul's Rebound bow, along with a Prismarine bow. I knew this had to be related, so I got all of those items myself and did some testing. Out of nowhere, I had the idea that maybe you could use Soul Rebound, then use Rend so that it will add all of the Rend damage together into one critical hit. This actually ended up working. I was able to take any critical hit and multiply it by 4 every time I did this. The whole time the boomerang version was actually irrelevant, and this was the real method the top leaderboard slot bots used. The reason this method worked was because the rend arrows were never meant to be added together and are not supposed to act as critical hits. However, the Soul Rebound's ability allows for this to happen, therefore meaning you can effectively duplicate damage by hitting something with a bunch of arrows, hitting it with Soul Rebound, and using rend. I believe this is probably the result of a lack of communication between admins when it comes to features added into the game. But hopefully stuff like this can be avoided in the future, especially if the purse coin counter starts getting involved. So since this could just be repeated over and over, multiplying your damage by 4 every time, I made a little setup and repeated it a lot. I quickly surpassed the old Vigintillion hits by those two guys previously. I decided to keep going anyways to overtake the all-time hit record, which was around 65.3 septen trigintillion by Hero Diamonds, or around 10 to the 115th power. After some time, I beat this record too, then decided to keep grinding just to see how high I could get this number. I was able to reach 1.465 novem sexagintillion before messing up. After reporting to the admins because of how unbelievably broken this was, I decided to do it again and try to reach the integer limit, but I messed up again, this time at 3.85 Quinoctogintillion, which is where the record stands today. To put this in perspective, if you multiplied the amount of atoms in the observable universe times the amount of cubic Planck lengths in the observable universe, you would just about reach this number. It is also just under the weight of your mother in metric tons. I highly doubt this record will ever be surpassed unless the admin screw up something exponential again. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you have any questions about this whole critical damage fiasco, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will probably reply to most of them. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, I would like to give a quick shout out to the Hypixel staff member who commented "your mother" on my bug report video. You are legendary.